Welcome to Reading the New Testament in Original Greek. We're reading in this session Method 2, verse 11. Και αλθόντες εις την οικίαν είδαν το παιδιόν με τα Μαρίας της μητρός αυτού και πεσόντες προσεκίνησαν αυτό και ανοίξαντες τους θησαυρούς αυτών προσύνεκαν αυτό δώρα, χρυσόν και λίβανον και σμύρναν. Excuse me. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chest, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. There aren't many interesting grammatical comparisons we can make from the English version with Greek version. The key to understand the verse 11 is how to define the participle and recognize the participle changes it in an aorist form, because we have pesontes. It's a drastic change from the verb pipto. We're going to take a look at it. And we're going to look at a sentence, and that's for a convenient reason, divided into 3 sections. Elthontes is the Nikian. Elthontes, we have talked about it many times already. The key syllables we can recognize from is elth, right? Elth, eleth, and eleth. From the verb erhome, I come, or I go, right? Elthontes istin ikian, with participle is, with accusative tin ikian, from the ikia, the house, making it a preposition with accusative gives the meaning of movement and directions. So elthontes, instead of simply they come, because elthontes with the on stems with the epsilon sigma, it's a nominative plural in a participle, and istinikian with the directions. They came into the house. Istinikian. That's where the into comes from. Idon, now taking the same subject in a plural. It's not the first person singular, because the form itself is the first person plural. No, sorry, first person singular, third person plural. It's the same. Idon. But taking the same subject from the elthontes, they saw. Don't get confused with the epon, right? We talked about an epon with a p, pi, with a mouse, and idon. It's not pi. So they saw, and also from the verse tense, we talked about it, they saw something, right? It requires an object, an accusative. So we have in the Greek text, the pedion, the child, and describes it from the meta with the genitive prepositions. It explains the child. So it's a genitive attribute, not technically. To pedion meta Marias, with Maria, this mitros aftu. From the meta till aftu, you can put the parenthesis. This all belong together. His mother. We had it previously with the same meta, but word order was different. Meta tis mitros aftu Marias. His mother, Maria. Now we have the reverse order with Maria, his mother. Que pesontes is from the verb pipto. The form itself changes drastically. It's good to memorize, and there are some key syllables we can recognize in the PT, but it doesn't help much in this case with pesontes. Peseome, it's a future form. It's very different. An epsilon with the sigma and on, that's the only key that we can recognize it from, and a peptoka with the reduplications and kappa. There is no medium passive perfect, there is no aorist perfect. I'm sorry, there is no aorist passive. So, pesontes from the pes. We don't have augmentation. Why? Because in a participle changes, in a participle mode, it doesn't require. There is no augment. So from taking bes with the und stimmt, with the a, epsilon, sigma, nominative plural, making it. So aorist nominative plural. Who is the subject again? As you see from the ge in the beginning, the same subject continues. So they fell, sorry, they fell. So they knelt down on the ground. Proskynisen, we have seen this one already. Proskineo, right? To give homage, to worship, or to pay respect. I mean, if you say to pay respect, to give a homage to someone, right? Then naturally follows the dative after him. Of course, talking about the pedion, the child. Now, proskineo, we have pros, and we have the augmentation with the argument epsilon, and gynisan. As isan is the ending. If you take an isan, well, isan is a typical ending of an aorist third person plural. If you're taking it aorist, well, augmentation epsilon, the third person plural. Well, it's a reasonable thought thinking that you are regarding isan as the ending, right? But if you're taking it in an aorist form, a gynisan, then you have the meaning to worship. You were worshipped, or in this case, they were worshipped. The meaning changes extremely differently, right? So instead of taking it in an aorist and in the passive forms, let's see with pros, take out the pros because it's a compound word, verb, and with the pros, gynisan, gyneo. With augment, we have an epsilon in the between. That's why we have augmentation between. With eta, it's taking it as a vocal stretch. The gyneo from the epsilon to eta. And a sigma we have in an aorist indicative with ending an, which is the third person plural, right? A as en, amen ate, an, right? With the sigma, and you can also memorize it in different way. Sa, sas, sen, samen, sate, san. You have to be careful with the isan ending because it might give you the confusion. So they fell, they knelt down on the ground, and they worship, they give them homage to him, to the child. Και ανοίξαντες τους θησαυρούς. Now, ανοίξαντες, we have another participle, anstimmt, with the epsilon sigma making the same nominative plural, the wise men. So, aniksantes from the verb aniko. Aniko, it's also the compound verb. The ending ego, or in Erasmus, oigo, itself has the meaning to open. So with an, it's a compound. So taking that stem, taking that the word compositions, there's also the verbal changes from there. So anixo with the sigma, the future form, aneocha, aneoxa, aneocha, aneome. But we have in an aorist passive because it's also taking a different excuse me, different root. We have a different form of an aorist passive. Aneochtin, eneochtin, enign, enichtin. So let's try to memorize them and how they in aorist and passive forms and changes. Anigo to open. Now we have anixantos, right? With the xantes anstems, usually take it's from the aorist passive. Aorist participle. The stem, xantes, they opened. Τους θησαυρούς, they opened an accusative object. Τους θησαυρούς, it's a chest, or it's their treasure, actually, in a plural form. Τους Thisavrush, the nominative plural. And also avton, mention a genitive attribute and modifying the thisavrush, the belongings, and their treasure. And prosinekan is it's interesting also word that form itself changes it very in a different way from the verb prosphero. Phero means to bring. The pharaoh is you can take out the pros and a pharaoh. Pharaoh changes in a differently drastically with completely different forms, you can say. So from the pharo and iso, once it's there isn't even the compound the compositions of the preposition at the beginning. And ineka, inekon, inegon. We have ineka, pros inekan, right? As in, aminate, an. The third person plural. Prosinekan. So they opened, no, sorry, they opened their treasure and they brought forth, right? Prosphero. Phero means to bring. They brought forth to him, after to the child. Dora. It's another accusative without article. Dora. It means present. And what are the presents? We have conveniently comma. Chrison, chrysos. It's a gold. Libanon. Libanon, it's a frankincense. It's a very the value is very expensive in an ancient time. In Smyrna, also the myrrh. We have some of the allusions from Psalm and also from the Old Testament how they when they worship they pay homage to the king. Usually they bring the present with gold, chrysson, and Libanon. Okay, this is today's session. I hope you have enjoyed it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And if you like the videos, and if the video was any of help, and I would like you to click the like button so that will encourage me to continue this session. Thank you for listening.